Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the RacePlazaMedia podcast.
Did you have to think about how it's called?
Yeah, it was just like, how do I usually say it? So my name is Milan.
My name is Pia.
Let's get this out of the way. And finally, after many, many weeks, F1 has finally returned.
Yes.
In the race in Spain, in Miami.
Yes.
And it was a sprint race.
Yes.
And it was a regular race weekend.
Yes.
And so we'll talk briefly about the sprint race because even though we both watched it, I don't really remember it.
I mean, I don't remember much of it either. I mean, overall, I was just going to say, I'm so glad it's back. It's been such a long time since we've had an F1 race. It feels almost like it's a new start of the season.
First of all, that, and then but then again, we are off another 2 weeks now again. So it's again a long break.
Yes.
A long break, but it's like we've been having so many breaks.
Yeah, and it also feels like things are not quite like doesn't have an opportunity to get started.
Yeah,
early
like there's no momentum.
Then we're stopping
Yeah.
again. And then I mean, this break I think was definitely great for a lot of the teams.
Yes,
because a lot of teams brought the upgrades. And we saw teams make big steps. I mean, welcome back, McLaren.
Yes, first of all that. And then there was obviously the regulation changes.
Yes, exactly. They've made some amendments or adjustments to
Yes.
the regulations. But it was just nice to see that the teams seemed to be a little bit closer together because after the first couple of races that we had, it felt like maybe Mercedes is going to run away with it. I mean, because they were just quite far ahead. And
I mean, granted, they still might, because it's...
No, of course. But now it seems like McLaren is now back in the conversation because for the first couple of races, I mean, Oscar didn't really have a race.
Well, he didn't race for the first two, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now at least we have both of them in the contention again. We have the Ferraris back in contention. We have Max dips his toe in occasionally. I mean, it's also so great to see that we have the Alpines finally competing again.
Yes.
What are you looking up?
Sorry, I'm trying to look up. There's something that is, I think, new this weekend or this season, and I'm trying to look up what it stands for. Oh, okay. Mercedes hasn't brought any upgrades. There's some teams, but then there's also the upcoming duo or the additional development and upgrade opportunities in Formula One, which is the first time this year that they introduced it. This is if you're not within a certain margin of the leader, you're like certain teams then are eligible to like do further additional development and stuff like that. And it seems like that I think most teams will be eligible for it outside of Mercedes.
Oh, interesting.
Because Ferrari, Vasseur said that he thinks that there will be... that they will be eligible for it. And then, well, the first couple of races, it was like Ferrari giving Mercedes the most amount of headache, but mostly because of the start also, which now that the start has been even more adjusted, I don't think we're getting that huge Ferrari advantage at all.
Well, no, and they just didn't have the straight line pace quite as much.
Yes.
They were really fast in like the corners and things like that, but whenever it was like one-on-one on the straights, usually Mercedes just had them outpaced.
Yes, because they also have the smaller turbo.
Yes.
But yeah, sorry, I wanted to bring that up because you were talking about the upgrades, and I was like, this is still coming, and this hasn't happened to the upgrades that the teams have already brought. So it is kind of exciting because it should hopefully help to make things even more interesting.
Yes.
Because we did already have some, I mean, you've mentioned Alpine and stuff like that, but we already had some in the main race, and we'll briefly talk about the sprint in just a second. We'll have some teams in there that we hadn't seen in a minute, also in blue, but the sprint race itself, so we had Kimi on the front again.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we don't have to recap it
No,
much.
I just want to say again, like, so again, he unfortunately during the start, he struggled immensely. That ended up causing that everyone around him kind of overtook him. And then I think this also then gave the opportunity for the race result of the sprint, which means that for the first time we didn't have a Mercedes on the top step.
Yeah.
We had Lando, the current reigning world champion. He ended up clinching that race.
It's so weird that we haven't seen, like, Lando's obviously the reigning world champion in Formula One. And this is now the first race that he was even, I feel like, in contention for a podium. And of course, like you said, he had now taken the top step of the podium, which obviously is excellent. But also speaking to that, I was thinking about it this week, and I know you'll agree with me.
I will or I will not?
You will agree with me.
And now I want to disagree.
But it's, I mean, well, I'll explain what I was thinking. But so essentially, I mean, Lando, of course, crossed the finish line first. He crossed it more than 3 seconds ahead of his teammate Oscar Piastri, who came on second, and then Charles came in third. But then once we heard the radio from Lando, he's like, oh, yeah, good job, everybody. Thanks to the team. And then I was like,
It is very interesting. So he didn't sound particularly excited about it. Oscar, who's a lot more like the chill guy, sounded more excited about the second place.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, this is a second race.
No, of course.
But no, I mean second.
Yeah.
Like for Oscar.
Yes,
because,
yes.
But then also like counter. Like we'll get into it because I'm assuming most people who watch this probably watched the race. So Lando, obviously in the main race, he came second.
Yeah.
And he sounded even more disappointed.
Yeah.
It was like, it almost was crazy. Like you weren't happy the day before. Weren't you weren't happy because it's a sprint race? I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but like, so first of all, McLaren made such a huge jump forward in this break. Now you're finally competing for the podium again. Like obviously, all of them want to come first. That's why they're racing. That's why they're athletes. That's why they're competitors. They all want to win. So I understand that maybe you're a little bit bummed if you don't take the first step of the podium. But first of all, how exciting that the team did such an excellent job to give you the pace, to give you the car to be able to come first and to be on the podium for both of the races. And then two, it just makes me think of MotoGP. You know, when they win a sprint race, when they win a main Grand Prix race,
they truly celebrate it.
Truly celebrate. I mean, obviously we can't hear them on the radio, but they're like throwing their limbs, doing wheelies, stoppies, whatever it is. Yeah. And there's just such excitement. Yeah. So then when I heard Lando, just like, oh yeah, thanks everybody, good job.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's like,
is this too? Is it Formula One that people feel like, oh, the sprint is not enough, like you said, if you're not on the top step of the podium, you don't have nothing to celebrate? Or is it just like, is it not cool to celebrate?
I don't know. It feels really strange, and but that the excitement is just so low because it's like a win is a win. And I will also say, like, this is also putting in perspective because I don't think he's like this, but like if Lewis, right, who has won over 100 races, is like, okay, another one in the bag, right? It's a little bit more understandable than someone like Lando, who's still like, what is it, sub 20 race wins?
Well, and exactly. And he has not had a race win all season. So it's the first time as the world champion, you're on the top step of the podium. Like, how exciting. Yeah. And then for him to kind of be so like, nonchalant about it, I was a little bummed, or it was not I was very bummed about it because I was like, oh, this is great, this is great news, you're in the fight now, you know. And then for him to be like, so it was just like,
he seemed like whatever about it. It's like he couldn't be bothered either way. Exactly. I mean, I know that he of course cares about winning, but he seemed just like me.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's I did notice in the post-race interview for the main race, like, yes, of course, he said he was like, of course, top step would be good. But I felt like, but maybe that's just my interpretation of things, obviously, that he was trying to be more positive about it.
Yes.
Which I'm happy about because he sometimes in the past could have been leaning more into like the negative things and just focusing on the negative things. So for him to say like, okay, you know, this is good. Obviously, I'm bummed, but this is still a step forward. And like you said, Oscar also did that. He was like so positive for Oscar,
especially for Oscar,
you know. So that was good. But I was just like,
it is odd, and I do think maybe, I don't know if like Lando had like a thought about it, because it is this thing when you step in front of the camera, right, and you are in a way like a big representation of the team, and all you do is complain about, you know, and everything sucks and everything. It's like, it doesn't make the team feel great either, you know, because they're obviously putting in so much hard work. Not that the drivers are not, but that obviously goes a lot of times kind of like unappreciated. Yes. Because they're obviously first one there, last one to go, all this stuff.
Exactly. But then on the other hand, I mean, like you said, the people who are watching this most likely already know the results of the race. So Kimi had won the main race, and I wonder if he's so excited still because it's still new to him. Obviously, it's his first season where he's winning races. Now he's won the third race back to back, which is obviously an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see his excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it seems Kimi's also, because I don't know if this is also because he's still young, but also his disposition is that he's just a very seems like a happy-go-lucky guy. Yes. And it's very infectious.
Yeah, and which I think is great.
Because absolutely.
I think they have so much pressure on their shoulders. There's so much weight on their shoulders.
Absolutely.
Obviously, they have to put in a lot of hard work, and there's lots of expectations on them because they are considered the best drivers in the world. I mean, this is the top category of four-wheel racing. And so I understand that it can be, or I have an inkling of understanding that it can be really hard, and also like social media and news, and there's lots of people with lots of opinions, including us.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, finish your sentence.
But I was just going to say, so it's nice to see people who are just so excited about it, because it is something to be excited about.
It should be, if you think about it, the percentage of amount of drivers who ever have the opportunity to win a race or anything like that is, it's very small. And I just saw that, especially sprint races, I know that they obviously count for less, but it's so there've been a total of 26 sprint races, right? And half of them have been won by Max Verstappen.
Yes, which is crazy. I mean, granted, they came into reality during his peak.
Yeah, when Red Bull had obviously the best car, but it is then also shows hey, all the other drivers have now the same amount of wins as this guy, and it's just be excited about it. Yes. But speaking about different opinions and voices in the media and stuff like that, and something I've noticed this weekend for the first time, or something I really noticed is, so Kimi Antonelli is obviously leading the Drivers' Championship, right? And people are talking about how he shouldn't be thinking about the world, about the Drivers' Championship. He shouldn't just think about it. It's too early in the season. Yes. But then after the sprint race and him getting a 5-second penalties, they piled onto him. It's what a mistake for him. Yeah. He should be
why is he not thinking about the
Why is he not thinking about the points that he's losing? This could have been easily avoided. Yes. And while I agree with it, getting track limits and then, picking up that penalty completely unnecessary, then getting that 5-second penalty that pushed him down from, what was it, from third, was it originally? Or is it from fourth?
No, I think it was fourth. I don't think he was on the podium.
All the way down to sixth, right? So behind your biggest rival, right? And then behind Max Verstappen, which the way the performance of the Red Bull is not someone to write off ever anyways.
Yeah, no, never.
But it's you guys are talking about how then you're pointing out he has talked about the Drivers' Championship, because obviously he is aware that he's leading the championship. Yes. And then people are always saying well, it's too early to talk about it. But in race 1, you guys are already talking about how these are important points for the championship. Yes. It's
make up your mind.
Pick your stance, right? Either be because you can't tell me, and I know Toto has said this as well, right? That where he's he doesn't want Kimi to think about it, because I've kind of mentioned this earlier to you and our friend, that I really don't want for Kimi to happen what happened to Oscar last year, right? What an excellent first half of the season, and then having one incident snowball into this next thing, right? And obviously having that pressure of leading the championship, and then also losing the lead of the championship and losing the Drivers' Championship itself can be it can be really hard, right? I imagine it is really a difficult thing, and also something you have to work through and kind of see how you can recover from this. Also, with your confidence and stuff like this. And Kimi being so much younger on top of that, right? He's 19 now, right? So it's you guys pick your lane where you want him to be, because obviously he's gonna think about the championship. He won 3 races in a row, and yes, of course we have 20 more to go or whatever. But it's pick a lane.
I agree, and I've definitely noticed it, and we like you said, we had talked about it earlier, and I do understand that it's both ways. There's obviously it's too early for anybody to know who will be a contender, or who will really be a contender for the championship, because it is so early.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's obviously definitely speculations. Kimi definitely has a leg up right now because he's leading the championship.
And he's in a momentum.
Yeah,
right?
And then also we always say, consistency is key. Every point matters. So obviously there's risks that you can take and will take, but there's also silly mistakes, track limits shouldn't be something you get a 5-second penalty for.
It's avoidable.
You know, like that's just unnecessary.
Especially because he was not under pressure at that point,
Yes.
right? You weren't under pressure to be overtaken by anyone. So you're pushing for like track times that you don't necessarily need to. So I get the criticism, and I'm not opposed to it. But it's like in the same sentence that you're talking about how he shouldn't be thinking about the championship, you're going so hard on him for not thinking of the championship in a way. You know, it's like...
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, make up your mind. Is it important or is it not important? Or
well, again, valid criticism, but like pick a lane anyway.
I agree. But like you said, it was so nice to see the McLarens back at the top.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see them competing again. We've also mentioned another blue team that was a little bit more competitive this weekend alongside Alpine, the pink and blue team.
Yeah.
But also the Williams. I was like so excited to see.
We're talking about the main race now, obviously.
Yes, exactly. To see the Williams more in conversation. I think the two big teams that are currently not as much in contention, really, are the Astons and the Cadillacs.
The Aston, I think, is the biggest disappointment. With the Cadillac, it is like you're a brand new team.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a hubris very much to be like, oh, we're going to go in and win a race or
immediately compete for points even, you know, that's a lot to ask for, especially with now 11 teams on the grid. But I think the two of those, Aston and Cadillac, they're currently battling each other.
Yeah.
But then the rest is a lot more intermingled, which is really fun to see, you know, like
anything from the Racing Bulls to the Haas to the Williams, like those, it seems like there's definitely a good midfield fight going on.
Yes, we have a really great midfield fight. I mean, unfortunately, Audi's been having some technical difficulties, so there's always one car that's not quite working, and I feel like it's been a lot of times Nico that's been having a little bit unluck. However, I've been loving their merch.
Yeah.
This weekend specifically with the iridescent kind of.
But Bortoleto, he wasn't allowed to participate in qualifying. Well, there was a lot of penalties this weekend.
Yeah, there was. It's been penalty. Yeah. And even after the main race, we've gotten so many penalty updates afterwards, but they came quite late.
Yes. I do believe they came late because they were probably like, we want to talk to the drivers.
No, of course. I mean, there's process. They have to review all the footage because they said a lot of the things they're going to review after the race. Then they're going to talk to the drivers and a team. So it is, obviously, there's due process and things. But it was still, because it's been, I think, like 2 hours after we were like, oh, I guess this is what it is now. Yeah. Because we're still hanging out with our friend that we were watching the race with. And then she'd left. And then within the hour, suddenly Charles got a penalty, Max got a penalty. So it's like...
There's certain things where we've talked about during the race. It's like, okay, so Albon's yellow flag infringement, they decided to investigate after the race. But then Alonso and then one other person, they were like, we'll do it during the race. And then Max, they were like, okay, we're going to see if he did a pit exit, I think it was exit infringement,
the line.
But we'll check that after the race. But I mean, we'll talk about the start of the race in just a second. But like from lap 20, I would say up until like 50, there wasn't a lot going on.
No.
There was always the hint of something almost happening.
Yeah, like we were always anticipating rain. I mean, of course, the race start was already rescheduled to earlier. Exactly, to hopefully avoid rain. Of course, we were hoping for rain because the sprint race was kind of flat. Yeah. You know? So then going into the main race, a little bit of rain could have been a lot more exciting.
Absolutely.
Like you said, the start was exciting. We had some really great battles at the beginning. We also had Max do a really big spin at the start. And by some miracle, everybody was able to avoid him. Yeah. It definitely hindered like Gasly and Lewis. Yeah. But nobody was hit during that incident. Yes.
I was surprised that no one clipped or that he didn't collect anyone. Yes. That was crazy because like obviously it's a very violent movement. Yes. And while he did contain it, right? And they're very good at catching stuff like this. It is like someone is spinning out and you're going really, really fast.
And it's like right at the beginning where everybody's so close. It was right after turn 2, I think it was.
It was like T1 and then going into T2-3.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was very exciting. Yeah. Because even just the start, I mean, Kimi had a little bit of trouble with the start. Charles had an excellent start, but then both Kimi and Max had a lockup right at the beginning, which definitely helped Charles.
And it was also Charles that he didn't get collected by Max spinning out, because I at first thought, because of the camera and everything going so fast, that there might have been contact between the two of them, which the way things going, I think I would have maybe put it in that case a little bit more on Max, because he was rejoining.
Yeah.
But there was no contact. He, unfortunately, the tires were just too cold, a little bit too quick on the gas, I'm assuming. And so that he didn't collect Charles there, really, really lucky for him.
Yes.
And then, and then I think the next big incident was, and this all happened weirdly simultaneously in the same lap.
Yes.
This was lap 7. We had Nico all of a sudden. He had to, so he already, he collected damage in round lap 1. So he got into the pits, got a new nose.
Yes.
I think they put on new tires for him, because I'm sure he might have tried to just do the same thing that Max did at the end, because you're just like, at this point, YOLO, right? So then he comes out, and then in lap 7 his car breaks down, unfortunately, again. He has technical difficulties,
but that happened during the safety car. The safety car was already out at that point.
The safety car was out. And then this was really unfortunate. It was Gasly, who's actually a really great wheel-to-wheel racer. He and Liam Lawson in their gorgeous yellow Racing Bulls car.
Nice.
Really, really, also really easy to pick out, you know. They're going into the corner, and then essentially braking, Liam loses he said his gear pockets, he's not able to get the car to stop. He clips the left rear of Gasly, and Gasly does a full 360.
Yeah,
if it wasn't
like
for the halo,
scooped him up essentially.
Yeah, essentially scooped him up, and then if it wasn't for the halo, there would have been, I don't even want to think about
scary,
it.
Yes.
And then he ends up kind of like just on top of halfway on the barrier.
Yes.
And then he's out of the race. Liam is out of the race.
Yes.
And
right before that, Isaac had his big incident.
Oh God, yes. I forgot about that. Oh my God.
It actually started with Isaac.
Yes.
And then shortly after, on the same lap, before the safety car was even called, the Gasly Liam Lawson incident happened.
Yes.
So Isaac had unfortunately he started from the pit lane because his qualifying was disqualified.
So he would have started at the back of the grid, and then I think they decided to make more adjustments.
They make some changes, exactly. So he ended up starting in the pit lane because the team actually, so the floorboard on I think it was the front left and right was like 2 millimeters too long, or like protruding. So that's why they got he got disqualified. So then they made some changes. He started from the pit lane. He made excellent work throughout the pack, because he also said like his car, he felt really good in it. It had really good pace. I mean, we also saw Max, of course, moving through the pack, but of course, Max, we have different expectations to considering or compared to Isaac.
Yeah.
But then Isaac accidentally clipped a corner, and that made him kind of lose the steering, and he went over the sausage curb directly into the wall. He was like, it happened so fast, and he was immediately
that chicane,
back into the wall.
Yeah, it's a chicane that leads to the long straight that's a left hand. And so and I thought he just ate up the sausage curb, but when you see it from he already clipped it going into the chicane. Obviously, there's no room. Then you hit the sausage curb, and then you're just a victim to inertia.
And he was so mad. I mean,
he was very upset,
smacking the car while he was still in it. It took him quite some time to even get out, because he was just so angry and upset, which I understand. Obviously, it's understandable.
Yeah, and I will say, I thought that it took them a long time to get the safety car out.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for them taking so long, then the Liam and Gasly incident would have never happened, because that happened in the same lap.
Yeah.
And then Liam had to retire the car 2 laps later or whatever.
I mean, during the safety car,
he retired the car. But it's like, I thought that the reaction to the safety car was very slow.
I thought so too. Because I didn't understand also at first that the Pierre thing happened afterwards.
Yes.
So they were all still racing, although Isaac was already in the wall.
Yeah.
On a straight track where there's not a lot of runoff area. And
especially in that area.
Where he was. Exactly. There's not a lot, unless you cut through the chicane.
I mean, granted, they were still quite a while away, because he was obviously towards the back of the grid. But that being said, I did think it took a long time for the safety car, or at least the broadcast to come to us.
Yes.
Because I don't think so. I think it's still the reaction time was long.
I think so too. Like, I'm surprised that they didn't call Yeah, or like a virtual safety car at least, or something to slow down the pack immediately.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
I don't know. It just seems like in the endurance racing that I've been watching, right? It first immediately goes to full course yellow, virtual safety car, boom, right? And I know that I think in Formula One, full course yellows are not really a thing.
Yeah.
But it is surprising that the safety or the virtual safety car didn't come out so fast, because once again, it's like you said, it's not like a track where you could just be like, okay, he's in the gravel, he's like 20 meters down or something like that. No, he's on the track essentially.
Exactly. I mean, his car was almost still partially on the track because there's no runoff there in that area where he hit the wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely very surprising there. But then the next, I mean, we've had some really fun battles then between some of the Mercedes and McLarens.
But I just want you to talk about what happened before we skip to the end. About what had almost happened.
Oh, you know what had almost happened? On lap 25, it had almost rained. Then 20 minutes later, it had almost rained. And then 20 minutes later, it was like, maybe some rain.
It is so interesting if you watched it, like the same broadcast that we watched. It's like, I think I was comparing it to like you watching the weather report on different news channels, and everyone has a little bit of something else to say.
Yes, and that's why we also started panicking suddenly when they sent Charles into the pits. We're like,
well, it was first George. George kicked it off, and we were all surprised.
Yes.
It was like, if in like about like, I don't know, 5 minutes time, the rain is coming. Why are you putting him into the pits?
Yeah.
But in the end, it worked out because he covered off Charles, because Charles ended up going to the pits, right?
No, yeah, it definitely worked out, and then obviously we got a really fun
Mercedes
battle.
Pit stops,
we got a nice battle between them later on again.
Yeah, and it also didn't help that Ferrari both times fumbled the pit stops.
I mean, in general, I felt like the pit stops were not as high quality or fast for like we didn't see any pit stops, at least from the numbers that we saw.
Less than 2.5.
That was like, yeah, exactly.
And
like
2.5 is supposed to be average.
Exactly. And usually we get them closer to 2, sometimes even a 1.9, 1.8 or something.
Very rare occasions, but a 2.5 average should be hit. But like, and Ferrari is like, for the amount of nonsense Ferrari does at times, right? They are very good in the pits.
Yeah.
So to both drivers have a 3.8.
Yeah.
And that also ended up costing Charles to come out behind George. And then obviously George already had the tires warmed up.
Yeah.
It again though, like in Suzuka, he struggled tremendously to get the tire up to temperature. I don't know if this is like a thing with the Mercedes at the moment, but I do think that it seems also Kimi was able to adjust to it easier to get it warmed up. But then I know he struggled with his tires at the end and overheating, all that stuff. But it was like it's like you said, like we were both, or all of us were bummed that they decided to push the race forward to avoid the rain, because it is like, well, let him race in the rain. Is it because it's too dangerous? Is this the thought process? Then I was like, well, then you should have not picked a track like that then.
Exactly, because it is a street race. They always complain about the grip level on the Miami track anyways, too. So then I understand that when it's raining and it's slippery, there's even less grip. And I mean, I'm pretty sure we had an F1 Academy race postponed last year.
Yes.
Because of the rain and stuff, too.
Because last year it rained, and I think in a sprint race, Lewis was the first one to go into the pits, and that ended up, he managed to get P3 there, I think.
Could be. I don't remember that part again anymore.
That's fine.
But speaking of Ferraris, what an unlucky weekend for them. Both of them in the main race. I mean, Lewis, right at the beginning, first of all, he got caught up by having to avoid Max when he spun out right at the beginning. Then he got together with Colapinto, which caused him to get some damage on his car.
It looked like quite a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'm assuming like aero or whatever is important for him, because he said afterwards he just was lacking pace.
And this was like lap 1 or 2.
I mean, it happened right at the beginning, yeah. I mean, he ended up coming in 6th, which is obviously not bad, but he didn't have enough pace to really contend or fight with some of the other McLarens, Mercedes, Max, you know. So it was definitely a bummer for him, because he had higher expectations coming into the weekend. And of course, we wanted both Ferraris to kind of ride the momentum from the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and then if we could get a Ferrari podium, you know.
I know, that would have been lovely. But then also Charles. I mean, what a bummer. Like I mean, at the end, he made this really great charge. He ended up passing Max and George after he came out of the pits. He was on third position. He was battling with Oscar Piastri. Eventually, Oscar ended up passing him. And then on the last lap, Charles lost control of the car. He touched the wall a little bit, but that caused damage to the car.
Yeah, he kissed the wall pretty hard.
Yeah, so it looked like the car looked fine.
Yeah.
But it hurt the car so much.
I'm sure the way it hit probably did from the suspension, and he was also obviously going at a quite high speed.
Yeah, exactly. And then so he had issues turning a specific way. So then he lost positions to George. He lost positions to Max.
And Max and George was essentially on the almost last corner.
Yes. No, Max it was.
And George was the previous corner. Yeah. Bless you. And cut it out.
Excuse me. But then, not only did he lose the 2 positions to them, but then after the race, he was penalized with a 20-second penalty because, I mean, he was called to the stewards for multiple potential penalties, but then he ended up getting a penalty for cutting one of the chicanes, getting advantage or lasting advantage towards or against George Russell. So he got a drive-through penalty, which then was equivalent to a 20-second penalty. Yeah. So instead of ending in 4th, he ended up now in 8th.
Yeah, that is pretty intense. Max also got a 5-second penalty for crossing the pit line or touching it, I guess. But you do have to give it to Max. Max did 51 laps on the fucking hard tire. Yes. That was a momentous drive, or he also ended up getting driver of the day because he did overtake a lot of people, and then he took the fight all the way up until P4, and I think also if they would have maybe switched up his pitting strategy, or if there would have been an incident again later on, he would have benefited more from it. But just towards the end of the race, it just the tire was just not there, you know? I think if the tire was maybe 10 laps younger, it would have been more competitive, and maybe he would have been able to give Russell a little bit more of a run for his money.
Yeah, agreed.
The good thing is because Lewis had fallen off so much with the damage that the 5-second penalty didn't really hurt him at all.
Yeah, because he kept the same place.
Exactly.
Which was, I mean, obviously good for him.
Yeah.
There was something else that I wanted to talk about that my mind just lost.
Sorry, but this is while you're thinking about this. What I did wanted to bring up again. What I don't understand is with the penalty like Max, what he got is this is pretty clear cut, right? Yes. So did he touch it or did he not touch? Right? Yes. By deciding to investigate this afterwards, I don't understand, because you're also doing a disservice to Max himself. Because if he knows I have a 5-second penalty, he might try to attack the race differently. Yeah. I know that in the grand scheme of things, it didn't change it. But if you're like, hey, you have a 5-second penalty, then you're probably you might drive differently, or you're trying to push maybe differently or something like that. So I don't understand why they did that.
In the F1 article, it said that apparently when that was called to their attention, they didn't have all the footage or all the different angles available.
That seems ridiculous to me.
So they were like, oh, we're going to rewatch it after the race to get different angles to see what exactly happened or where he crossed the line, which I think also is strange.
It's because how do you not have the footage available? Do you not have access to all the footage at all time?
That's what I was
it seems odd to me. I obviously don't know how race control works. And again, in the grand scheme of things, it did not change the outcome. But it's also such an odd choice.
Yes, but then also he cut the pit exit line to get a better track position because when he was coming out of the pit lane. So I'm sure there was a camera watching him. Also because it is Max. So there's usually cameras on him.
Yeah, not even that, but it's there's cameras positioned on pit exit because they're expecting people to battle coming out of it. So it's not even like a Max thing. It's F1 has so many cameras everywhere.
Well, that was my point. One, it's the pit exit. Yeah. 2, we knew that he was battling somebody coming out of the pit lane, or knew that his exit is going to be important in terms of track position. And then 3, it is Max. But what I also wanted to bring up...
He pitted during the safety car, right?
Yes, he did pit during the safety, because they're all bunched up already, or getting closer.
It was nothing was happening at the time. So what are we doing?
I don't get it either. But the other thing I wanted to bring up briefly, talking about Max, is just his battle style when he's in the midfield. I feel like there's always, whenever he ends up further down the pack for whatever reason and he has to battle through the midfield, I feel like there's always lots of complaints over the radio about how he battles, you know?
It is, at least today, I thought it wasn't really pretty to watch because it is very much, it felt some of the things that he did is like, either you yield or we crash.
Yes.
It is very much, it had this aspect because like when we saw Lewis and Charles battle, right? It was so tight, but it never felt like someone was trying to make the other person crash.
Yes.
It was never like, oh, if you don't yield, we'll crash. It's more like we both are on the line as much as it can. And
agreed.
With Max, then you had this whole incident with Lewis, right? This was during the sprint race, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, this was during the sprint race where he pushed Lewis off and then he went off as well. And then he gave back the position, but he then complained on the radio that Lewis didn't try to overtake him because I also thought at first that it wasn't particularly clear whether or not. And then also technically the FIA regulation says that it is preferred for them to give back the position at the end of a straight because it's also, I think, a little bit easier to read.
Yeah.
But also like you're upset that Lewis is not overtaking you because you already did something wrong, right? And now you're trying to screw him over more by setting up the overtake like this. And you know, so you're close enough so you get overtake mode for the next lap because you want to do this before the detection zone. But it's just this thing where it's like sometimes it's like, why do you seem to only race nice sometimes with Charles? Yeah. You know, but with so many people today, like with, I think it was with Carlos, with Alex. It was it with Liam or was it?
No, not with Liam.
It was with another.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think they went back. Liam had to give back a position because they passed in a similar position where the battle happened with Lewis the day before. Yeah. But it's just like, it's such
It is sometimes it's not that pretty to watch because it is very much this thing that
it's me or we're both out essentially, you know.
Yeah, it is what we saw last year a lot also with Lando, him battling Lando, not Lando doing this.
Yeah. But it's just such a bummer that it's
because it doesn't have to be like this. No. Because when you see him also in the Nürburgring, when you saw him race against I think his name is Christian Hase or something like that, the German driver, and they have really nice battles, you know, and it's not like this. And I don't know if it's also because the Nürburgring is obviously a pretty dangerous track, right? But it's like it didn't seem like it when I saw him race the last time that it was like, oh, you yield or we crash. Yeah. And I don't know what it is about
F1,
but about F1 or something like that. But sometimes it's like, oh, this is like because it seems like you don't have to do this, you know?
No, and it also, it doesn't seem like, as much as we complain about Charles complaining about racing, it doesn't seem like actual racing, what Max sometimes is doing, you know?
Yeah, it's just sending it and then we'll see if, you know, like, you better avoid me.
Exactly, and that's not racing. It's just like...
Yeah, and I was surprised that because he pushed another driver wide, and there was no investigation because if the driver would have not have went off, then they would have made contact, you know. And it goes back. We've talked about this many times. It's just sometimes I'm like, bro, there is ways to race nice and actually really, really hard, and it doesn't always have to be like I'm forcing you to not crash into me.
Yes, exactly. I agree. But I think overall this F1 weekend was okay.
It wasn't what I wanted to be. I wasn't expecting it to be.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever seen a Miami race that was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wasn't expecting a lot. Yeah. I was hoping for a little bit more. I mean, I was so happy that they're back. Yeah. I was telling you and I was telling your friend too, when I watched the intro during the sprint qualifying, I was like, oh yes, this is different now, because I'm so used to still last season's intro, because it's still quite fresh, you know? But I mean, it was nice to have the guys back and to see them, and also to see now the improvements that a lot of the teams were able to bring. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll have some more changes coming up in 2 weeks when they're heading to Canada.
Do you want to tell us real quick the top three?
Of the main race was Kimi Antonelli won, Lando Norris came in second, and then Oscar Piastri came in third. So a really excellent weekend for the McLarens. They made up so many of the points.
Yeah.
So now that in the overall standing, Kimi is still leading with 100 points, ahead of his teammate George Russell with 80 points. Then we have a little bit of a gap until we get to Charles Leclerc with 59, and then 51. Lando and Lewis are tied currently, and then we have Oscar Piastri with 43 points. But like, the McLarens had such a shitty start to the season, and now they're immediately 4 and 6. You know, I think
or 5 and 6. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess Lando is considered because he has a win on the board.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
but it's like they've made up so many points.
Yeah,
and then also when we look at the constructor or teams standings right now, Mercedes is first still, of course,
leading by 70 points.
Yes, with 180 points, ahead of Ferrari with 110, and then McLaren is already third with 94 points, way ahead of fourth place Red Bull with 30 points.
Yeah. So we only have 2 teams that have 0 points at the moment, which is Cadillac and Aston. Not a surprise.
Yeah.
Audi has 2 points on the board, which is not bad. Williams 5. And then we have Alpine, Haas, Racing Bulls, and they're all within 9 points of each other. Or I
mean, it's nice. I mean, like we said, it's still so early. And the next race is not until 2 weeks from now, which is such a bummer. Canada.
Yes.
On the 24th.
So 3 weeks, technically. 2 weeks off.
Yes.
And then we're on. So 2 weekends off, and then we're back on.
Oh, interesting. Monaco is a weekend later this time.
Oh, it's not on your... So there's a week off.
Yes.
So your birthday weekend is off.
Yeah. Interesting. Because, usually...
it falls on Memorial.
Monaco's a Memorial Day weekend or around my birthday, typically.
Yeah.
But, interesting. I mean...
Oh, you leaked when your birthday, so now they know that you're a crazy Gemini.
I mean... Anybody's surprised.
Maybe watching the channel.
Maybe.
They don't see your cuckoo side.
I don't know. Well, I mean, they've seen glimpses of it, I am sure.
If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the race weekend. If you were a little whelmed like we were.
Only whelmed, not
just
under.
Whelmed. A little underwhelmed, actually. A little bit underwhelmed. But we're going to...